Hi, everyone. This is Keith, and welcome to Conversations with Keith, a weekly set of talk story sessions with various community leaders where we discuss issues of importance to everyone on this island and possible ways to solve those issues. Today's topic is the effect of COVID on small businesses, and I'm lucky to have three special guests who represent the small business industry here today. The first guest today is Mr. Ryan Chun. He's the founder and owner of Elite Parking, the company which was founded in 1992 and grew to become our largest locally owned parking company and management company in Hawaii, with over 80 locations across Maui, Oahu, and the Big Island, and at the front door of over 22 hotels in Waikiki and major hospitals such as Queens and Kapiolani, Palimomi, and Straub. Ryan has seen the firsthand effects of COVID on his business, and we look forward to hearing from him soon. Welcome to the show, Ryan. Our next guest is Mr. Keith Emerson. He's the president of Island Flooring, the largest unionized flooring installer in the state. Island Flooring was started in 1958 by Ray and Carol Maury. Keith purchased the business in 2014. There's over 60 employees at Island Flooring focused on flooring installation for large commercial projects. And Keith has also been monitoring the effects of COVID on the construction sector here in Hawaii. Welcome, Keith, to the program. And finally, we have Jason Takemura, the founder and president of Bamboo Catering. Jason is a trained chef who had successful stints running popular restaurants such as Hukila Restaurant in downtown and the Pagoda Restaurant. Jason went on to found Bamboo Catering in 2017, and he's based out of the Philcom Center in Waipahu. Like a lot of small businesses, Jason's business took a hit when COVID hit our islands. However, Jason has been creative and willing to help others, and it spurred him to provide a nice niche that has not only helped his business, but has helped his community. So welcome, Jason, and thank you for joining our show as well. What we're gonna do is ask a series of questions of all of our guests and hear what they have to say, and have a little back and forth in terms of conversation amongst all of us. And then we will go into a lightning round series of questions where they give quick answers to some of my questions, and then we'll wrap up the show afterwards with some closing statements. And so we'll just start off with round one series of questions. And the first question will be to Ryan Chun of Elite Parking. Ryan, could you tell us about your business and your experience as a small business owner in Hawaii?
Our business is primarily, we consider ourselves a hospitality company that happens to be in parking, we've been around since 1992, so this is our 28th year in business. We have about 1,000 employees prior to this COVID epidemic. And we've probably had to lay off about 400 employees due to the virus. It's just been a super challenging time, and just have to kind of really pay attention and be able to adjust on a daily basis.
Yeah, I mean, it's been really rough on your business, especially because you rely heavily on tourism-related entities. So hang in there and hope things get better soon. But on the positive side, I mean, pre-COVID at least, tell us what you love most about being a small business owner.
For me personally, I love the freedom, and then just the creativity. Again, like I said, as much as we're known as a parking company, we're a hospitality company. My favorite thing is probably just dealing with people and being able to provide a guest an experience. In parking, we consider ourselves the first and last impression of the guest experience, whether it's at a hotel, event, a restaurant, a hospital even. So my favorite thing definitely is just dealing with people I love my team, my employees. I love the culture of our company. It's a real family-oriented culture. Everybody cares for one another and really kind of gets down and dirty, so to speak. There's no task that's out of anybody's job description, so to speak. So I just love the people in my company first and foremost, and then just the guest experience, creating a guest experience.
Well, I know firsthand the high customer service and quality that your employees exhibit, and I think that's a credit to you, Ryan. It starts from the top and the way you handle yourselves and lead by example. And so that's a real credit to you. People enjoy working with Elite Parking, and that's why you've been so successful. Um, Switching over to Keith Emerson of Island Flooring. Keith, if you could tell us a little more about your business and your experience as a small business owner here on Oahu.
Um, well, as you mentioned, I was part of an ownership group that bought Island Flooring from its founders, Ray and Carol Morey, back in 2014. I actually have, prior to that, zero construction experience, zero, really, as far as being a business owner, certainly as an operator. I have my background's in finance. I had spent time in investment banking as a consultant. So really it was, we acquired the business, along with some partners, and my intention was not to be involved in kind of the day-to-day aspects of the company. That was back in 2014. Fast forward a few years, and due to circumstances, I had to kind of step in rather suddenly into the day-to-day operations. That was, August will be 3 years now, and I have to say, even though this wasn't maybe my original plan with Island Flooring, it's probably been the most rewarding experience in my career so far, in terms of not just being a small business owner, but being in there as an operator, as a leader. I've kind of had to learn quickly, still learning the aspects of flooring, but really, from a standpoint of leading a team, Ryan talked about the people are what he enjoys most. That's definitely what I found to be the case. Again, I didn't realize it maybe at the time going into it, but having the opportunity to lead a team, to kind of have a common goal, and we're all sort of working towards the same thing, trying to build a culture, improve what had been, a long culture with, kind of its good and bad over the years. That's probably been a really rewarding part of being a small business owner and being part of Island Flooring.
Well, that's great. And I can attest to the reputation of your company as well. I knew the Mori family well, the predecessor owners to Island Flooring, and they were beloved by many in the flooring community and beyond. They were so generous, and I know you've continued the generosity of Island Flooring to community service and community endeavors, just like Elite Parking and Bamboo Catering. So that's a credit to you and your team, Keith. And in terms of COVID, how much has it impacted Island Flooring so far?
Yeah, I'll be the first to say that, I definitely feel like one of the lucky ones in this situation, right? Construction in general has been deemed an essential business. Now that doesn't necessarily mean all the projects that we had lined up themselves have been considered essential. So we've definitely seen a slowdown. We started off the year pre-COVID on rather slowly, which is kind of typical for our flooring industry. The beginning of the year always starts out a little slow, but we were very optimistic. This was shaping up to be a really good year, and we're almost halfway through the year. We thought we'd be kind of going full blast by now, but certainly when things hit in mid-March, again, even though we've been able to continue work for the most part, we've had a few sizable jobs get pushed back. A lot of the smaller ones that we would typically use to kind of fill up our schedule and help keep our guys working, those have definitely slowed down a bit. So it's been a mixed bag, but certainly I can, again, compared to some of the challenges like Ryan and Jason, who you have on here, right? We definitely recognize we're kind of one of the lucky ones that's still, you know, for the most part able to work, and haven't had to completely shut down any parts of our business, you know, since March.
So you haven't had to lay off anyone yet?
No, we haven't. You know, we, as you mentioned at the front, at the beginning, we're a union shop. I mean, it's, you know, good or bad, you know, whether it's, we kind of have always lived in this, you know, we're always trying to keep our guys busy, but it's for our union installers, it's never been a guaranteed 40 hours every, you know, week of the year kind of thing. It kind of ebbs and flows with the amount of work we have. So, having said that, you know, so we did definitely slow down. We had a lot more guys staying home in April than we certainly would have liked. But our office, you know, I guess the where I remain optimistic is we've been as busy as we've ever been in terms of bidding for new work coming up down the road. So it's a little interesting, whereas the jobs had slowed down, but we almost got busier in the office, you know, trying to line up new work, you know, for the future. So it's, you know, we're cautiously optimistic that, you know, as things kind of rebound, there'll be plenty of work out there.
Okay, but Jason, why don't you kind of tell us a little bit more about your experience as a small business owner, what you like about it, and how COVID has impacted your business, Jason?
So in 2018, I decided to start my own catering company. Prior to that, I was working for another caterer, more or less trying to learn the business and whatnot. Decided it was a good time to venture out on my own. I like being a business owner. You know, same with Ryan. I love the freedom, being able to get involved with other projects and not having to pass it by anybody. You know, we just, if it makes sense, we do it. I also got to step back. Although I'm very active in the kitchen, I still was able to step back, focus more on the business side of it. You know, getting out there, definitely dealing with the people has become probably one of my more favorite parts of the business as well.
Well, you're definitely a people-oriented person, as are Ryan and Keith Emerson, and that's certainly a key to each of your company's success. So obviously, I mean, I'll let you answer your own question and not me. How has COVID impacted your business?
Oh, it was a big setback. We were on track. We had, you know, sales, you know, doing catering. It's not like a restaurant where you don't know who's showing up. You know, we do all of our sales in advance. We know what we're doing for the summer. We know what we're doing for the holiday season and whatnot. So it was projected to be a very good year. And then March hit, and I think the second half of March, it was completely shut down already. And then all the events in April started canceling, and then May, and now June. And you know, it's like, we're getting to the point of being able to reopen soon, but technically, I mean, we can do things that are different. You know, we do events, we do weddings, we do first birthdays, grad parties, whatnot. Those have not been cleared yet to start doing. So we had to transition and adapt, and we started doing meals for families and doing other things just to get creative, to get some cash flow in, because I mean, back in March, we had no idea, you know, was it going to be a month, 2 months, 3 months? And then you start seeing the rest of the world, and you're like, oh man, this can be going on past the summer.
Oh, that's good. You just got to hang in there. And I like the creativity you've shown and innovation, like your Wednesdays prepackaged family meals that have been very popular with people. And go check Bamboo Catering's Instagram account for the weekly menu. Call in your orders Monday or Tuesday to Jason, and my family has done that, and it saves a lot of time in the kitchen. Pivoting to another round of questions, Ryan, how has Elite had to get creative during this time?
Oh gosh. we've had to do all kinds of crazy things. I call it almost desperation. So I tried to start to reach out to, any kind of contacts and just trying to see whatever kind of business lines that we might be able to tap into. Um, we've been extremely fortunate to have great partners, and we're able to get connected with that Aloha Challenge through St. Francis Health, who is one of our partners already. I have to really give a lot of credit to Jerry Correa, the CEO. But on a daily basis, Elite, through that whole Aloha Challenge, has been delivering about a little over 1,000 meals door to door every single day, 7 days a week. We've been able to pivot to deliveries. And then lastly, we've been fortunate to have hospitals. We diversified many years ago to hospitals other than hospitality. And when the COVID thing hit, the hospitals actually asked us for a number of more positions. So again, we're fortunate enough to have additional positions at the hospitals.
Yeah, I think as you all pointed out, that's the difficult thing about COVID. I mean, there's always economic upturns and downturns, but they're usually cyclical. Well, this is an unprecedented situation that's impacted us. No one's ever experienced it, and you just don't know how long it's going to last and how severe it's going to be. And as business owners, that's impossible to plan accordingly. So we just got to do what we got to do, and then keep fighting the good fight. And I give all of you credit for trying to keep your employees employed as well. I mean, it may not necessarily be leading to company profits, but the importance of a steady paycheck to your employees. So I know they appreciate what you folks are doing in that regard. Keith, switching to you, how has COVID affected you and your family, your work and family balance, I should say?
It's probably been, I think back to maybe when I first started my career in finance with like that type of stress. It's, if I've gotten, way big, the last, whatever, 2.5, 3 months have probably been the busiest I've been in years. Like I said, even though our work slowed down, and from an economic standpoint, like I said, we've been fortunate. The challenge certainly could be greater. Safety for everyone across the board, but I think in our industry, that's been a big concern too, because we've continued working. So a lot of our focus has been on, again, the rules have been, changing, the guidelines, everything. So it's kind of a double-edged sword that we are still able to work, but we've got to worry about a lot of, the safety of our men, the safety of all our employees on the job. So there was just a ton of administrative stuff. I felt like for the first couple months, probably 80% of every day was something COVID related that I didn't have to do at all, prior to mid-March. So as far as how that, what that's translated to is, definitely more focus on work probably than ever. So having said that, we also did in mid-March kind of go half remote with our office. So we split our administrative team in half, so we could social distance better. Half of us were in the office 1 week, and then we'd rotate, the other half being at home. So as busy as I was for those weeks I was working at home, it kind of opened up that's been, I guess, the blessing in disguise to all of this. Even though I'm working, right, I'm not commuting. Obviously I have a 5-year-old daughter. She's been home. My wife's been doing the Zoom classes with her for her preschool, but I've certainly been able to be around more physically during this time. We actually did go back to all being in the office just a couple weeks ago. So that kind of work from home stint is up. And I'll be honest, I kind of, I think I'm going to miss being around at least a week at a time, a lot more than I was able to before. So.
Yeah, I give all of you credit, because I think, Ryan, you still have a young child at home, right, with you guys. Do you, Ryan?
No, not super young. Olivia is 14.
Still,
so,
yeah. You're responsible for at home. And Jason, you have 2 young ones, and God bless all of you guys who have children, because you have to balance being a homeschool teacher, a parent, and running a business all at the same time. And I'm sure it's rewarding, but it also can be stressful. My wife Bonnie and I, our son had to come home from college because of COVID, and he's 20 years old, and you know, even he annoys us, we annoy him, and but we don't have to take care of him. And so I give you guys credit to have to balance all of that at one time during this COVID crisis. Next set of questions, we'll go back to Ryan. So Ryan, I'll ask you a multi-part question. What's the biggest takeaway from this pandemic? How do you see your industry evolving, and what would you do differently? What are you going to do differently post-COVID?
For us, I feel like COVID just kind of sped up some of the things that we were already thinking about, as far as, whether it was technology or curbside pickups type of things, delivery service. With all these restaurants and different things, with all this curbside pickup, we think it's going to stay even as things open up and there's the all clear. So we're working towards more of those type of things. We were working on like an elite marketplace, almost like an elite concierge, where you could, with technology, almost request almost anything, and we would work with our partners to get it kind of delivered to certain points. Some of the things that we really feel that we had an advantage with is kind of access. As an example, if someone were to order a pizza in Outrigger Waikiki Hotel, well, the pizza delivery person has to come to the bottom, first find parking, second check in with like either a bellman, front doorman, and then the guest has to come down and actually pick up their pizza. The guest is not allowed, as an example, to go up and get their pizza. But for elite, if we were running a marketplace or a curbside service, so to speak, first and foremost, we are the parking, so they would drive in. In most cases, or a lot of cases, we're the doorman and bellman, and we have access actually to the hotel. We're qualified to do it, so we could actually take the pizza up to the room, and it would be a real seamless experience. So, again, sorry for the long-winded answer, but we see a lot of opportunity in the future. And again, it's such a travesty. This thing has just been crazy. Never seen anything like it in my lifetime. But we intend to really move forward and come out of this with a number of different business lines. We see the future as very, very bright. That's at least our approach.
Yeah, I like what you said. Companies always talk about, I mean, I'm a business person myself by trade, and we always talk about needing to improve and be more efficient, and better. And sometimes you kick the can down the road a bit, but COVID has forced everyone to do it because it's a matter of survival, basically. I mean, so if there's any good about COVID, and there's very few good things about COVID, I guess it's forced everyone to be more nimble, innovative, and more efficient at a much faster pace. So thank you, Ryan. Keith, so tell us, what's your biggest takeaway from the pandemic? How do you see your industry evolving? And what's something that Island Flooring will do differently post-COVID?
That's funny. The thought of construction evolving, and I say this coming from a subcontractor's perspective. Obviously, there's a lot more technology used in our industry these days than there has been in the past. But in many ways, it's still a very kind of archaic. It's a lot of things are still done manually. A lot of things are still done in person. So having said that, I think a lot of, not just ourselves at Island Flooring, but everyone's trying to figure out what markets are gonna do better than others after this, right? I mean, who knows what's gonna happen? Hospitality is, as Ryan knows well, right? Things are changing a lot. I mean, we do a lot of tenant improvement work in retail, restaurants. That's a big unknown, right? How long is it going to take for those sectors to rebound? So a lot of it is we're trying to think of where people are going to have money to do work. I mean, people obviously are going to need floors, but it's It's a question of where the work's going to be in the near future. I think more so where we're going to, as we come out of this, or, hopefully sooner than later, it's really kind of looking inward at how we operate, how we communicate with each other. I think we've been able to, we've had to adapt, whether it's working remotely, communicating even better with our installers in the field. I think it's given us opportunities to show our installers, how much we care. It's like it's been a very, I'm torn at times. It's, I have guys who they're appreciative of the fact that they can still work, and we're trying our best to get them work. But we also know going out into a construction site is not the safest thing during COVID, right? And here we are in the office, or even if we're working from home, right? So it's how do we kind of show our guys, even though we don't have the same tasks or same jobs, right, that we're kind of all in this together. So it's, as we have little opportunities here and there where it's, the company got infrared, no touch thermometers for every one of our installers. Obviously we're trying to procure masks like everyone else. And so it's more looking at how do we kind of take care of each other. Kind of, we've all been in this together. We're going to look back on this and say, okay, where were you when COVID hit? What company were you working for? What did your employer do for you? Or what was that experience like as you were going through COVID? Construction, I'd be, who knows, right? I mean, I certainly haven't been in it long enough to see it evolve over the years. I think it's more looking at like how we as a company and our employees, how are we gonna, what's this gonna do to our relationships with each other going forward? I think is kind of the biggest opportunity that I see for Island Flooring coming out of this.
Yeah, thank you, Keith. And well, if I have any say as your next mayor, construction is an important part of our economic recovery. We need to keep that going because tourism is going to take a while to bounce back. And so let's work together to do what we can to keep the construction industry moving forward. Thank you, Jason. What's your biggest takeaway from the pandemic? How do you see your industry evolving? And is there anything you do differently post-COVID with respect to your company?
I mean, definitely this COVID made me basically, or it made me appreciate being at home more, being in the hospitality industry. I mean, man, you're working 70 to even up to 90 hours a week, in the restaurant industry, which is part of the reason why I wanted to get into the catering side. But, when I was in California, when I worked at Pebble Beach, we had the opportunity to work 4 10-hour shifts as opposed to 5/8, the normal. And, I see that as a possible direction that a lot of industries can start taking. For me, my sales guy or whatnot, I can maybe start to tweak our hours a little bit. It's been a blessing in disguise. We got to definitely. I see my kids 100 times more than I used to. And my wife as well. But as far as operating goes, a big majority, part of the niche we have is it involves buffets, and buffets right now, it's not looking like it's going to be able to be allowed anytime soon. So we've already adapted quite a bit, and also having to keep in mind that the client, if you look at, for example, a plate of dinner, it's 1 or 2 options as an entree, as opposed to going up to a buffet and getting all your options, and that's what people like, especially for large parties, something for everyone. But so we're working with the clients, the people that were postponed or later on in the year, and trying to push them in different directions and get more creative, more pre-plated, I guess, small bites, stations that they don't have to serve themselves, but we would actually have somebody there building on site for them and handing over. So making that work in their budget. We're still working on that, trying to get creative, because from a labor standpoint, that it doesn't involve a lot more. But I think that's definitely the direction we need to be going. We already did a good amount of that, but like I said, for the little bit lower to middle ranged prices, you know, we got to get more creative with those people as well, the clients. So
Yeah,
should be good.
good points, Jason. And you know, like you said, COVID forced every business to allow everyone to work at home at least for a while. And I know many businesses, including our some that I was involved in and helped oversee. We talked for all the time about work from home, and we did it in gradual phases. But now we're forced to, you know, to do it with the whole staff. And you know what? The world didn't come to an end. You know, there's always fear, because if it's going okay, why risk changing it? But after people had no choice, we're realizing that things are actually okay, and people make adjustments, and that has a profound impact on companies' bottom lines. I feel, because companies will realize, well, maybe we don't need as much office space because we don't need an office or a cubicle for everybody at work, and so that's a cost-cutting measure per se. Also, quality of life, as Jason mentioned, you can spend more time with your family. You don't have to be caught in traffic as much. It reduces traffic for everyone else. Although yesterday was pretty busy. I don't know if anyone was driving rush hour time Friday yesterday. It was almost like normal. So I don't know what happened with that. Maybe it's just people are more comfortable going out. But yeah, so COVID has clearly made everyone have to adjust, and Jason, you brought up points that I didn't fully think of. Your industry is complicated because it deals with food safety and people coming into contact with food, and the buffet issue is a big one. And you know, one way I thought about around it was to have your people serve the food, you know, out of a buffet, but then that's just way more people you got to pay. So it's a balance there. So Ryan, what can government do to help you and your business? Well, during this COVID crisis and beyond, like what were your frustrations before COVID, and what are they now? And you know, what are a couple key things that you feel government can and should do for you and small business in general?
You know, I'm not super, again, tied in with governments. I don't have a lot of complaints. I mean, if anything, it would be anything as an employer, probably from mainly the taxation side, or rules towards, you know, being an employer, because we have so many employees. I mean, 1,000 employees. Maybe the cost of healthcare, you know, helping us control things of that sort. You know, just doing business in Hawaii, you know, it's really expensive. And then on top of it, you know, our cost of living is just so expensive. So anything we can do, you know, more in a holistic view of the government, you know, if you can help us with housing costs, I mean, that, you know, it's an all together trickle effect, you know, anyway, it's just a huge, you know, bigger, expansive, everything kind of feeds into the other. But you know, I'm not completely so intertwined with government, but just doing business here is really expensive. Being an employer is hard, expensive, and then if we can just make it easier for our you know, our team members, our people here, to afford things, whether it's housing and food, and just make a decent wage, that's where I think the government, at least from my view, could probably help the most.
All of you have kind of alluded to it, and I was going to wrap up with this, that I've been on the campaign trail about eight or 9 months already. And the number one issue of the working class public, or just voters in general, is the high cost of living. And what's the biggest factor in the high cost of living? It's the high cost of housing and the lack of housing inventory. We're about 22,000 units short on Oahu to accommodate the housing needs of everybody on this island. And as part of my administration, I will make housing a priority, affordable housing. And I believe I was the first and still the only candidate with a comprehensive housing for all plan that seeks to address that 22,000 unit shortage immediately. And some of the ways we want to do it is, well, first, certainly streamline and make government more efficient in terms of approving permitting. The generals you work with, Keith, will tell you that's a very frustrating thing for them, where they have to wait indefinitely, it seems at times, to just get the green light to start construction. We need to do what we can to pivot and focus on building housing for Oahu residents and not out-of-state residents, which has not necessarily been the case recently. We also need to curb the activities that suppress the housing inventory, like the illegal vacation rentals that have proliferated our islands. Now, I know the city has passed a law about a year ago that aims to crack down on the illegal vacation rentals, but I think there's still quite a bit out there. And if we can open that up to local residents for rent or purchase, that'll also make a dent in our housing inventory. I also believe that transit-oriented development is important as a part of our economy, including housing, because all three of you are, like me, been lucky to travel to other parts on the mainland or even to foreign countries, and every rail station is like a city in and of itself. And an important part of that is housing, is condominiums, retail, commercial, entertainment. You want to create these cities where people don't have to get in a car, and where they can just go on rail or walk or bike to wherever they need to go. And so I'm committed to increase affordable housing on the island, and I think it'll help everybody in terms of their cost of living concerns. In terms of diversifying the economy, tourism will always be realistically one of our pillars, but I think we can look to focus more on higher end tourists, and that can reduce the amount of tourists, yet still have the same amount of spend, ideally, and less of a tax or burden on our infrastructure and on our local residents or Oahu residents. Let's focus on, again, the higher end tourists, and with all due respect, but they're more ideal than the tourists that have been trying to sneak into Hawaii in the last couple of weeks, and breaking quarantine and not staying at a friend's house and trying to sneak around the island. I mean, that's not necessarily the tourists we want. We want tourists who are willing to pay for their lodging and spend appropriately. So hopefully we can pivot there. And then in terms of diversifying the economy, Jason kind of mentioned it. I think agriculture is a huge source of potential in terms of boosting our economy and increasing our food supply and further ensuring food security. And then we should also look at renewable energy. We have almost every source of renewable energy in the world, and I don't know why we can't be the leader in the use of renewable energy, and also as a leader in terms of technical expertise and know-how in renewable energy. So those are kind of my thoughts on diversifying the economy and how we can lessen the burden of the high cost of living here. So anyway, I want to thank all of you for joining this conversation on COVID and the impact on small businesses in Hawaii. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Keith. Thank you, Jason, for being on this first of what we hope will be many conversations with Keith, where we speak with various leaders of our community to talk about the issues and concerns that they have and possible solutions to those problems. So thank you again to the three guests. Thank you all who have tuned in to this show, and join us next week as we have a new panel of speakers. Thank you and aloha.